Hello, this is how to install the large language model gemma4 using CPU only on your local computer using snap packages on Ubuntu 26.04. This is part of a tutorial about Ubuntu Core. It goes over how to install gemma4. So gemma4 should be available via Snap. My computer is running Ubuntu 26.04. Let's first search for this snap package called gemma4. Should be available. And then it says that it requires a snapd version 2.68, which we have. So snapd version is 2.75, which is larger than 2.68. So we don't really need to update the snapd snap package. Next up, we're going to install the snap package for gemma4. Already installed. Let's look at the status. Says that it's not using the GPU or an NPU, so no other hardware is required besides just a CPU, central processing unit. And then we have the web UI available. So with this, we should have a large language model installed on our local computer. This model should just do local computations, should not go over the internet to answer your questions. But the speed will be really slow because we're actually using the CPU. We're not using any dedicated hardware such as a really fast GPU or a NPU, etc. The hardware in general on this computer is not the best hardware that you would throw at an LLM that runs locally. So let's see, we have the web UI application. Let's see the actual speed of gemma4 using the model gemma4 E4B Q4K-M. And let's see if it actually can respond correctly and how fresh are the information that's stored inside the model. So let's first see what is the result of 2 plus 2. We have this checkbox, instant toggle for thinking on. Again, the speed is going to be really, really bad. And we're probably going to want to speed up either the entire video, or I'll just pause the video and resume the video when the final results are in. Okay, so it knows how to do 2 plus 2. Let's see if it knows Wikipedia things. The official languages of Switzerland. Pressing enter works. You can write questions in multiple lines using Shift Enter. You can probably resize the chat edit box. Okay, so this information is purely probably collected from the internet, maybe from Wikipedia or from a similar source, another encyclopedia, and is available in our model. And the answer seems correct to me. This was the truth, 30 years ago for languages. Let's ask it, for instance, questions about Ubuntu. Let's see if Ubuntu 26.04 can boot if UEFI secure boot is enabled. Yeah, the speed is actually okay-ish if you do keep the checkbox thinking on enabled. If you uncheck the checkbox thinking on, then you will not get much feedback and results for quite a while if you don't see this thinking part. For now, the CPU is cooler. The fan did not start yet, so probably the CPU cores are maxed out, but they did not get hot enough. We should actually look at the CPU usage. Okay, so let's dissect a bit the large answer. So it says that Ubuntu 26.04 probably can be installed successfully using secure boot, which it can. Almost all major Linux distributions today are designed to include necessary digital signatures and bootloaders that the UEFI firmware recognizes as legitimate. I wouldn't say that this is true. Plenty of Linux installer ISOs do not support secure boot. The installer handles the required signing of the bootloader and kernel components. I'm going to guess that there's no such thing. The bootloader, shim, etc. should be actually signed by Microsoft. Why would bootloaders be able to use the Microsoft digital signature to sign things? You must tell the installation process to use secure boot. I haven't seen this thing ever. Okay, and then also very important, it says that this model is running locally, has all of its data running here on this computer, and then the data was fetched from the internet at some point in time, which is in here called the knowledge cutoff. So the model knows that Ubuntu 26.04 does not exist in its own data, and it tells us. So it says, I have data probably about, I don't know, Ubuntu 24.04 where secure boot works. I don't have any data about Ubuntu 26.04, but I'm going to guess they will not regress. So they will continue supporting secure boot compatibility. Okay, so the answer is kinda. The bold part is probably okay. The rest, I'm not that sure it's perfectly correct. Let's see if it knows how we can enable Hibernate on Ubuntu 26.04. It's interesting that the output from the model, from the LLM model, is actually not boring to me, in the sense that it's keeping me engaged at all moments. It's writing text each second, a bit of text. I can keep up with the text that it writes, but we're kind of at an equilibrium here. I actually get to understand what it's writing, so the fact that it's outputting a word or two each second is actually okay-ish to me. I get to proofread the answer while the answer is actually written. So I don't feel that I'm losing time by looking at the output. I'm actually reading it as it comes. If I were to, I don't know, do something else and then return when the full answer was provided by the LLM, I would still need to read all of the output. So actually the speed is okay for me. We'll have to see what happens if we give it really complicated problems, in the sense that problems that require a ton of input text. But if the speed remains the current speed, then yeah, I would be satisfied. And again, we should consider that I don't have any dedicated GPU or NPU or other hardware. And the CPU itself is not something really new or powerful or energy hungry. Okay, so let's look at the reasoning. Unfortunately, this reasoning output is shown in this small scroll box. So it's not that convenient to actually read. So let's see what it says. It says that hibernation is actually suspend to disk, correct? Requires writing the current system state, all of the contents of the random access memory, to the swap partition or file, correct? We should have enough disk space for the entire size of the random access memory, true. Okay, the system needs to know where to hibernate to and from, restore from. Okay, do they have, let's see if we can increase the size of text. Do they have a swap partition or file? In my case, the Ubuntu installer has installed a swap file, which is very advantageous because it allowed me easily to change the size of the swap file. I have increased the swap file size to be larger than my random access memory size. There's some advanced scenarios where you can do some tweaks, configurations, such that the random access size is a bit larger than the size of the swap, and you can still successfully sometimes hibernate. But the simpler scenario and the safer one is to just have, in my case, the swap file be way larger than the random access memory size. Okay, then we need to edit the grub configuration /etc/default/grub, correct. Include resume equals UUID, correct. You need to run update grub, not enough. So you need to actually say the resume offset of the swap file. So there's a missing step between this step and this step. And then you can configure your desktop environment. I never bothered. It's just fast for me to go Control R, HI, press enter in the terminal that I use, the terminal tab that I always use for hibernating. Control R being bash, read line, search in history, reverse. Okay. Again, it says about the cutoff. The data in its database is older than April 2026. It says something about 1.2 times. I have never heard of this percent before. 1 extra gigabyte should be enough. Swap on show correct. Sudo fallocate l18g/swap file is not okay. You need to actually swap off the swap file and then delete the swap file. Otherwise, fallocate did not work for me. Changing the permissions for /swap file. I'm not sure if this is a valid command line. And I didn't actually need to do it. So the broad lines are there, but you'll need to increment. So first of all, I try to see if suspend to random access memory actually worked, and then I resumed, and then I tried to see if hibernating, so suspend to disk, works. I did it in a more iterative way, and I tried. Just fallocating didn't work. I need to to swap off the file, delete the file, and then fallocate worked. I didn't need to edit the fstab because this line already existed in /etc/fstab. I'm not using a swap partition. This is very advanced scenario because when you install Ubuntu, generally it will not leave not allocated free disk space on your disk, on your NVMe probably. So there's no way to actually create a new partition. You will probably need to resize some of your existing partitions, and resizing is a very advanced scenario. Okay, says sudo nano, which is correct. Doesn't say that you need to open a terminal. Maybe it does above. So resume UUID is just half of the editing of the Linux kernel command line. You actually need to also add the command line parameter resume offset. This part is correct. Incomplete, but correct. Doesn't do anything for swap partitions, which is okay. Again, it's a very advanced scenario. Configure the desktop environment. I did not do these things before. It does mention KD, which is great. And how you actually hibernate. Sudo systemctl hibernate, correct. And the test is that if you start your computer, it should probably say that it's resuming from disk in the boot progress. And it should go back to your graphical user interface session with the exact same apps opened, with the windows being placed exactly where you placed them on your desktop. So yes, I totally like the output. Let's give it a more complicated problem. How to install the XRDPR DPS server on Ubuntu 26.04. Again, the cutoff date means that it doesn't know about Ubuntu 26.04, probably knows about Ubuntu 24.04. The actual answer is identical, both on Ubuntu 26.04 and Ubuntu 24.04. But then the knowledge required to actually answer correctly is very niche. I do know it because I actually test it from time to time and do YouTube videos on exactly this topic, but I'm not sure if this particular model has actually looked at my YouTube videos to know how to answer correctly. Okay, so it says that XRDP, where is it? Scrolling in this thinking group box is complicated. Again, it says it's a future release, Ubuntu 26.04. It says newer desktop environments, yes, and newer desktop environments means not having an X11 session, which KDE Plasma fortunately still has on Ubuntu 26.04. XRDP doesn't support Wayland sessions of KDE Plasma yet. Okay, what else? This is where most users fail. The default Xorg session might not be the ideal Plasma session. Firewall. I don't, it doesn't sound familiar, the last 4 points in here. Yeah, so it knew some things. It knew that I should run update upgrade. Very failsafe, of course, to have the latest version of the packages installed. And then it says that it wants to install XRDP, which is not enough. I want actually to install 2 deb packages, XRDP and Xorg XRDP. I don't really need to edit any configuration file for X starting. So not X session, not Xinit, nothing, because everything just works out of the box. XRDP and Xorg XRDP know about the KDE Plasma session, at least on Debian and Ubuntu family of Linux operating systems. You don't need to restart the service. The firewall doesn't really need to be configured because UFW is disabled by default. Okay, interesting part. So it says that you need to find the IPv4 address of your network interface card, and then you're going to connect using an RDP client from another computer. The Windows operating system has a built-in remote desktop connection application. On macOS, you can install a Microsoft app from the macOS App Store. How do we interrupt this thing? Cancel. Okay. Note that you need to also install the Xorg XRDP deb package. Let's see if it remembers the entire session. Okay, so the session is enabled, which means that my last question is related to my penultimate question. And in here it says that thing is a technical addendum. How do we scroll? Strongly implies that the user is asking for or receiving instructions related to setting up the remote desktop protocol access on a Linux machine, specifically Ubuntu. Yeah, it's so and so. It didn't prepare a answer that would unify the answers of from the last question and from the penultimate question. So we didn't rewrite the actual answer from the penultimate question, saying something like, yes, I see that xorg xrdp must be installed, but you should actually install xrdp and xorg xrdp and then configure them like this. Fortunately, again, on Debian and Ubuntu, family of Linux operating systems, there's no configuration to do. There's just one step, which is apt install xrdp, xorg xrdp. That's it. Restart the computer. You don't need to fiddle with configuration files, with I don't know, systemd units, etc. Let's see if it knows KD things. What is the name of the KD Plasma desktop calculator app? Okay, so this should be kcalc. And then we'll see if it knows how we can build from source the kcalc application and how we should edit or propose GitLab merge requests, etc. Yeah, it's totally incredible to me that the LLM's database would contain such a large amount of information. So it knows that the default KDE Plasma desktop calculator app is kcalc. It knows that Kubuntu is Ubuntu, but with a KDE Plasma desktop. It knows how to hibernate. It knows about very niche deb packages from Ubuntu, such as xorg xrdp and xrdp. It knows how to configure UFW. So Linux information is extremely niche. Ubuntu information is extremely niche. KDE information is extremely niche. So, and everything comes theoretically just from what Snap has installed as Snap packages on my computer. So how large is this database actually? How many terabytes of data is it? How much is it compressed or something? We're going from just niche to niche. It knows that the name of the app, the display name is calculator. It knows that the name of the executable is kcalc. Okay, let's see. Where is the Git repository of this app? Yeah. The answer is both great and not correct. So it's great in the sense that I can see the LLM going through its entire database of knowledge and trying to put together pieces, but I can see that the database is not large enough. Again, the information, the correct URL of the kcalc KDE Git repository is an extremely niche information. It's not contained in its database. So it thinks of ways that you could fetch information. It has bits and pieces of information. It keeps saying GitLab, GitLab, so this information is correct. KDE has a self-hosted GitLab instance. It doesn't really know the name of the Git repository, so it thinks it might be kcalc, but then it might be something else. It says something like there's hundreds of modules and packages, which is correct. And the calculator app might not be a single standalone Git repository, which it is, so it's standalone. gitlabkde.org, I haven't ever heard of this URL. Let's see if this actually works. Nope. Yeah, so if it had this information in its database, it would just spit it out. It would just provide the URL and that's it. But it didn't have the URL, the full URL for the kcalc Git repository. It didn't have any URL for any KD Git repository. Otherwise, it would have said invent in here in the output or in the reasoning part. So I cannot find the string invent anywhere, which means it doesn't have URLs to any KD Git repositories. Then it says how I could help myself. So I could help myself by going to GitHub and search for KD calculator. Let's see if that thing actually works. Okay, so I started github.com. I'm not logged in. And it says that I should search for something like KD calculator. Search is way worse if you're not logged into GitHub. And it found the repository correctly. So the very first link in here, the very first result is correct, kd/kcalc. This is a mirror of the official KD Git repository for kcalc. It's not the official kcalc KD repository, but it's really easy to get to it because there's this link in here. Oh, it went to calc, which is the wrong calculator. Yeah, the KD community has more than one graphical user interface desktop application calculator. There's calc with 2Ks, there's kcalc like this. So let's search for kcalc. How do we do search? What? Where is the button to search? Okay, now the second link and then the URL that actually goes to the correct Git repository. Yeah, this probably the LLM has these two great limitations, which are intuitive. You should know, you should have guessed that these are going to be the limitations. So doesn't really have very niche information in its database, and is a bit slow because we're just using the CPU. The fact that it's slow hasn't bothered me yet. The fact that the knowledge base database is not 100 times larger, I can feel it, and it's making it way less useful for me. Let's see if it knows how to proofread. Theoretically, proofreading should be part of its default database. So proofread, spell check the text, Control V, send. The thinking process is really great in here. So it says that it has recognized that there's a header, which means that, I know, maybe the pasting was... So why would it know that there's... maybe pasting was HTML, which is great. So it figured out that kcalc is a title and it's okay. Can't improve anything there. Then features is a header and is okay. Then says, where is it? Introduction. Kcalc has everything you would expect from a scientific calculator, plus says grammatically fine, slightly wordy, but acceptable. Trigonometric functions, logic operations, and statistical calculations. Needs stronger punctuation flow. Wow, what would that be? A results stack which enables convenient recall of previous calculation results, grammatically fine. Precision is user definable. Okay, so it totally doesn't do just an English language, I know, spelling check. It tries to probably improve each sentence, which is something way more advanced than what Google Docs does. So Google Docs, when you proofread, it will only, I know, spell check, put hyphens, minuses where they should be put, etc. Tells you to replace maybe English UK with English US words. Whereas this thing actually tries to rewrite all of the text. Which enables convenience. So convenient is a bullshit word. But it's part of the default of the input text. So let's see, did it actually suggest we change anything? Kcalc features. We actually want to compare in a difference viewer. Okay, so old is left and new is right. I can see that the LLM, gemma4, tries to use the best standards for writing, which would probably the Chicago style. You can see the wiki page of the Chicago style where it says that many publishers throughout the world adopt Chicago as their style. I can see it in the title casing. So it's used title casing for these 4 items, title casing for also this item. And then I can see it insisting on putting commas before and. The use of key bindings make it easy. The use make it easy. The use makes it easy. Yeah, so this is a Germanism or something. So this is actually a good catch. The use makes, right? So the wrong singular plural form. The display allows cutting and pasting of numbers. Cut and paste is more a computer slang. This is more human readable. A results stack which enables. I'm not sure if this is mandatory, but again, I kind of tend to trust the LLM because the LLM has actually read the Chicago manual of style book. It's interesting, the output that I see in here. I am not a fan of the Chicago style title capitalization. I don't actually use it anywhere. I would not want to change existing titles to follow this type of capitalization. I'm not exactly sure about enforcing commas before all the ends in all of the KD Git repositories. This is definitely a bug. And this is cute, and this I'm not sure it's just mandatory. This one is mandatory. So it managed to find a bug, so an issue, something that I can improve to a KD Git repository, and it only looked at a very simple and short file in that Git repository. So it's totally way better than what I used before for proofreading, which is the Google Docs spell checker. Again, I'm not sure if I should accept all of the changes that it shows me, it proposes, but it totally is way better than the previous experience in Google Docs. I am really interested if Gemma has enough functionality to read web pages. Let's see if it knows how to do that. Can you read and understand a web page? So because I know that its database doesn't contain this page and its children pages, I would have liked if this LLM has a functionality where I can say, go to this URL, read the entire page, and then using the children of this page, so the URLs inside this page, which means the entire left-hand side tree view and all of the URLs in the page, answer the following questions. And then at that point, it would have in its database very fresh information about how to build KD software. And then I could actually ask very precise, targeted niche questions about how to build KD software, about KCalc, etc. Because the information actually is in this web page plus its children. But then no, it says that it cannot browse the internet. So if I provide a URL, it cannot read it. But it says that I can export whatever is in here and, for instance, attach it as a PDF file, just an image. Let's see what attachment types it has. Okay, just an image, that's way too small amount of information. So I would have tried to export this page and its children. Unfortunately, I cannot find a button in here that will just create a PDF for me for offline consumption of this web page. But then maybe I could ask Gemma to create such a software. I could ask, please create a very simple Python script that downloads this page, all of its children, and convert everything to a huge one-page HTML file, for instance, and then I could paste that thing in. But then I'm not also sure what's the limitation in the text box edit size, so how many characters I can input inside this text box. But if it would allow me to attach PDFs and it would do the chunking correctly, then that would be a great opportunity. Or maybe, I don't know, huge HTML files. Let's see if it actually can start doing that. Okay, so create a simple Python script up that downloads the web page and the other URLs in the anchors in this page. Yeah, so that's quite a task. So what I would expect is two different parts. One part being something similar to WinHTTP GET or WinDig, or what was the name of the application that is mirroring existing web pages, websites with all of its children on your local hard disk. And then a second app that takes the cache, the entire website that's downloaded to my disk, and create something interesting out of it. Like, I don't know, maybe a huge concatenated HTML file. Yes, I'm not sure how perfect are its capabilities of writing source code, but then by just reading the thinking, it's going over the thing as a CTO, whatever, Chief Technology Officer, and it's generating at least a high-level plan. So you could totally be able to go design top-bottom this entire app. Let's go over its thinking process. Again, I cannot actually scroll in here, so I'm going to copy-paste the text. Inside the thinking group box, I have copied the text, pasted into a text editor. So let's read what it says in here. So it found out the word combination web scraping, which is correct. A script that downloads a specific starting URL, another keyword, recursively downloads keyword, content of all of the linked URLs. So it knew how to convert from anchors to linked URLs, which is correct. HTTP requests, a library to fetch the content of the web page is correct. And requests is the actual name of the library. HTML parsing, so going from HTML to, which is the computer readable form of the page, towards actual text that's human readable. It needs to find all of the anchor tags, correct. It wants to use the Python package Beautiful Soup. We need to download the local files. There's the OS module. There's a directory to save content. Will not download twice, which is correct, what I want. It should prevent infinite loops because there might be such things. So a web page having an A to another, to page B, and then page B having an A to page A. So an anchor. Connection timeouts. Okay, the page is saved on the disk should have similar names as the HTML URLs, HTTP URLs. Then it knows that some URLs might be relative. There's a queue of URLs to be processed later, which is correct. Okay, relative URLs, URL lib.parse. Immediately thinks about scrapping too fast, which can get you banned, which I actually did not think of. And I actually want to do KD development, so I totally don't want my IP address block be banned by the KD websites. A small time.sleep delay is necessary. We're using Python, so we need try except blocks. There should be a directory structure. Only downloads HTML, not images. Requires network access. Okay, and then it goes to the actual results. So let's see what it did. It says that I should install Beautiful Soup 4 first. This is not how you install packages, PIP packages. There's a queue and a dictionary. What's this? A set. So this is a unique list. Start URL, output directory. I'm not sure where it starts from, probably the current directory. Yeah, I cannot read LLM source code output because the input that I provided was too complete, was too high level. I didn't break down the problem first, so I should have said, don't create any source code until we decide that the structure of the application is good enough. Where I'm going with is I don't want actually a Python script, just one file. I want a Python app, so a 100 Python files, really, really small ones, each exposing a very simple and short class with just a public method. And then I want the application split into very different parts. The first one is the scrapper, and the second one is after the scrapper did its job or while the scrapper is doing its job, so a totally different process. Should take the pages that have finished downloading completely, which means that the scrapper should also have a intermediate download directory where it puts files before they're finished downloading, or it keeps them in memory. And then the probably way simpler application that just takes HTML content, converts it to human readable content, and then concats everything. So that would probably be, I don't know, 5 lines of Python. But again, a different executable. There's a ton of comments, but again, just reading the final results of a very simple prompt, the final application created is not something that I look forward to. It tried to actually create a very short Python script, not a Python app, which this is the way they look. They're very concentrated. They use as many third-party libraries as possible to get you the most distance possible with the most short number of source code lines. And if the end app is really, really short, then yes, it's understandable. It can be understood by a human. It keeps wanting to use non-ASCII text, non-English US text, which is not great. Yeah, the next step would be probably to actually save this file somewhere and run it in a debugger to see what's happening. And the best Python debuggers and graphical user interface IDs, integrated development environment apps for Linux would be from the PyCharm or Visual Studio Code with the Python extensions installed. Yeah, the capabilities of the locally installed gemma4 LLM installed as snap packages is way beyond what I thought they are. Again, it manages to rewrite English text, not just spell check it. It manages to create Python source code that seems legit. I'm not worried if the source code is not perfect, because I would not use any source code before actually going with the debugger over it. So I would totally copy this thing, create a Git repository, initialize the Git repository, put the file in history, and then start chopping away at it. Creating an install script that installs the dependency Python packages correctly, because pip install doesn't work out of the box on Debian, Ubuntu, Linux operating system family. I don't want to install things to /usr. I want a local virtual environment. And then I would load this thing and the entire Git project in Visual Studio Code or in PyCharm and put a breakpoint for the debugger somewhere in here, and then run over everything. I would probably remove all of the comments that don't add anything new to the source code line below, and any simple issues which might be like, I know, string concatenation, string operations, some requests that don't work perfectly, HTTP ones, then Gemma would be very able, I'm going to guess, to fix. So once we have Python exceptions being thrown or other errors, downloading not working correctly, I would just copy paste the error and parts of the Python source code lines that don't work perfectly, and Gemma would just fix everything. Yeah, I'm very impressed. Again, I don't have any dedicated GPU or other hardware for running the LLM. The speed is also just perfect in my case. And again, it didn't start the CPU fan at all. I don't hear it. So this is it. Very impressed with the current crop of LLMs that can be installed on your computer. So on-prem large language models, and the way they're packaged for Ubuntu 26.04 as snap packages. Thank you.